Displaced, ousted, forced to leave. 30 years on, return to their homeland still eludes the Kashmiri Pandits.
इन विस्थापितों को पुनर्स्थापित करना ये देश की जिम्मेवारी है.
On January 19th, 2020, hundreds of displaced Kashmiri Pandits commemorated the Kashmiri Pandit Exodus Day. Exodus Day marks the exodus of the community in the wake of an extremist outbreak in the Kashmir Valley in 1990s. Year after year, this day witnesses a bout of protests and discussions on the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits in exile. This year was no different.
उस दिन हमें नेक्स्ट डे की उम्मीद नहीं थी कि अगला दिन आएगा या नहीं आएगा और 30 साल से हम बेघर हैं.
अचानक एक लहर उठी, भागो 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 भागो, अपनी बीवियां यहीं छोड़ के तुम भाग जाओ.
We have become like a tourist in our own homeland. बुरा लगता है ये सब देख के कि everyone is just tweeting about this. No one is even trying to do something.
The Exodus of 1990 remains a scar that questioned the secularist claim of India being a country where religion does not discriminate. The Kashmiri Pandits had to let go of their homes in fear of their lives. And as the years mount, the flicker of hope dims a wee bit more, of ever returning to the land of their ancestors.
Warm welcome, you're watching In Depth. On the 30th anniversary of the mass exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits from the valley, Kashmiri Pandits staged a protest in Jammu and also the national capital against the failed assurances by successive governments for rehabilitation.
Years after nearly 300,000 Kashmiri Pandits were forced out of the land of their ancestors. A homeland eludes the community, living as refugees in its own country. But even after 3 decades, the persecuted community is still hopeful of regaining its cherished homes, lost of terrorism and religious fanaticism.
हम जिसकी डिमांड करते हैं पिछले 30 साल से कि हमें जब बसाया जाए वहाँ पर रिहैबिलिटेशन जब कश्मीरी पंडित की हो, वो एक सेपरेट एरिया में हो. हम 7वां एक्सोडस हुआ हमारा, 8वां होने नहीं देंगे.
Voices from the community from Delhi and Jammu reflected on repeated pledges made to them by previous governments and pinned their hopes on the Modi regime.
मोदी जी है तो मुमकिन है, उनके राज्य में हमें हमारी आवाज बाहर निकली, किसी ने हमको पहचाना. आज 30 साल तक हमारी आवाज किसी ने उठाई नहीं.
Militancy has to be eradicated, eliminated from Kashmir, so that peaceful return of Kashmiri migrants is possible.
जिस तरह से सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक करी और जिस तरह से सीएए को लागू किया, उसी प्रकार से रातों रात ऐसी खबर फैल जाए कश्मीर पूरे विश्व में कि कश्मीरियों को स्थापित किया जा रहा है फिर से कश्मीर में. ऐसी मैं मोदी जी से अपेक्षा करती हूँ.
In Delhi, there was a high drama at the Shaheen Bagh anti-CAA protest venue after several Kashmiri Pandits activists reached the spot. Pandit activists raising justice for Kashmiri Pandit slogans had a scuffle with CAA protesters. The Modi government, meanwhile, made a big promise to the displaced community.
Their rights in Kashmir belongs to them. I think they need to be back in Kashmir.
Can we expect that during this term of Prime Minister Modi, Kashmiri Pandits will be able to return to their homes? Government is going to take steps for their honorable and dignified return?
I know some people in opposition will not be happy, but will do it.
But will the pledges cut ice with the community, which has got nothing but assurances for the last 3 decades?
Now, the film Shikara, the untold story of Kashmiri Pandits' upcoming historical drama, produced, directed by Vidhu Binod Chopra. The film is based on the Kashmiri Pandit exodus from Kashmir. The filmmaker joined us earlier today to speak to us about the film's journey. And this is what he had to tell us when we asked him if working on this film was more special.
See, I'm actually a Kashmiri Hindu, which is not really Kashmiri Pandit. But yes, it was personal because my mother came to Parinda Premier and in '89 for 1 week, and she couldn't go back for 10 years. I mean, it was, and I saw her smile slowly becoming less and less wide for almost 10 years. She died in 2007, and 2008 I started work on it. It took me 11 years to be dispassionate, to objectively look at my film and my story and then tell it. So yes, it's very personal. And none of my films has taken this long, whether it be Munna Bhai or Three Idiots or whatever, Parinda, 42.
Now, India Today has been covering the developments in Kashmir since the beginning of militancy in the 1980s. Today we bring you a snippet of a report from some 30 years ago as the Kashmiri Pandit community leaving the valley of their forefathers, fearful of the present, afraid of what the future holds.
Last year, Kashmir had a population of 1,40,000 Hindus. In the last 6 months, more than 1 lakh Hindus have fled their homes, many with just their clothes on their backs. Several pockets of Hindu population like Habbakadal, Renawari and Karan Nagar have become ghost towns. There were numerous pressures that forced these Hindus to leave. Children had no schools to go to. Colleges were closed. Weeks of curfew had converted homes into prisons, often without electricity, water and food. But most of all, it was the tension of being a minority in an increasingly fanatical atmosphere, where the very air they breathed was laden with violence and fear. They have left secure jobs, sometimes of 20 years, established businesses running for generations, and even properties and orchards to a blank, uncertain future with marginal help from the government. Why, they ask, should we be refugees in our own country?
हम डर गए उन लोगों से, फिर हमने सब सामान उठाकर यहाँ आए थे.
Suddenly, her mother, who was sitting next to her, began to weep.
दुखी इसलिए है कि इसके 3 बेटियां हैं, बड़ी बेटियां हैं, और इसकी एक बेटी है. ये इसलिए रोती है. हम क्या करेंगे?
Less than 3 years ago, these people led normal, average lives in Kashmir. In the last 6 months, that normal world is now sadly part of their good old days nostalgia.
तुम्हें लगता है कि वापस जाओगी तुम कभी वहाँ पे? मन करता है वापस जाने का? क्या कहते हैं मम्मी पापा, क्या कहते हैं कि वापस जा पाओगी वहाँ पे?
नहीं.
क्या कहते हैं कभी नहीं जाएंगे वहाँ? तो फिर क्या कहते हैं कहाँ रहेंगे?
यही.
तो यहाँ क्या करेंगे?
Large-scale migration began when the release of Rubia in exchange for 5 militants led to mass hysteria in most parts of the valley. The next phase came in the 3rd week of January when huge processions were taken out in the valley, processions in which many Hindus were forced to march in front.
हम मजबूर थे, हमारे हाथ बंधे हुए थे, उनके नारे थे कि अगर आप नहीं निकलेंगे हम आपको मारेंगे.
ये क्या नारे लगाया आपने?
पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद, यहाँ क्या चलेगा मुस्लिम ये मुस्तफा.
Hopelessly outnumbered, most of the 1,40,000 Hindus in the valley of a population of more than 30 lakh Muslims panicked and fled. More than 90,000 of them sought refuge in Jammu, Udhampur, Nagrota and Kathua. Another 6,000 moved to Delhi. More than 2,006 reached Amritsar and other parts of Punjab. Yet another couple of thousand scattered in various other directions. The government has so far made only marginal arrangements for their rations. A large majority of them have not found accommodation in the limited number of camps set up by the government.
All right, talking about his latest film, Shikara, Vidhu Vinod Chopra spoke about how much of what is in the film is from personal first-hand experience of being a Kashmiri Pandit.
A lot of it, because and through my mother's eyes. See, like there's a whole sequence in the beginning that there's a marriage in the village. Those are the kind of marriages I've been to, where in Hindu marriages all the Muslims sang together and played the music. So I have grown up literally in the Kashmir where there was hardly any distinction between religion. We were all together, we were one people.
Meanwhile, we also asked him whether making the film was cathartic or traumatic in context of being a Kashmiri Pandit.
I think cathartic, I think. See, it's a tough thing. When you make a film like this, it is difficult. As it is, any film I make is tough. But this one was far more difficult because I had to be objective. I had to keep my personal feelings slightly in check in order to say a broader, because it's a love story over 30 years. It's Shiv Kumar Dhar and Shanti Dhar meet in 1989 and the film ends in 2019. So it's a whole 30 years of their love story. So I had to be very objective and yet tell the story of the Exodus.
Come back. Now, there are several organizations fighting for the cause of Kashmiri Pandits. We asked Vidhu Chopra if he had been asked to or whether he has been part of the Kashmiri Pandit pressure groups in getting Delhi to do something about the return of Pandits to the valley.
I look at myself as an artist and not an activist. So I'm actually part of no group. You may not have seen me on television at all for many years. I don't come and say, because I'm not an activist. I cannot be an activist. I can just be an artist and tell my story. This is my story. It's not a story that I am not from some other place, wherever, Middle India or somewhere, and who's telling the story for political gains or otherwise. This is my story. I wanted to tell it, and I've said it most honestly that I possibly can.
Meanwhile, Kashmiri Hindus from across the country and abroad hold demonstrations and marches against the community's forceful eviction from the valley 30 years ago. They have been demanding that their human rights be restored and also a safe return to their homeland, or as they call it, Kashmiri Panun Kashmir.
The Kashmiri Hindus displaced from their place of birth when Islamic terrorism gripped the valley have been in exile for 30 years now. For several of the 70,000 odd Pandits, Kashmir is where they want to return because Kashmir is home. And that is how Panun Kashmir, meaning our own Kashmir, an organization for displaced Kashmiri Hindus, was born. Panun Kashmir, in its December 1991 convention, introduced the historic Homeland Resolution. The resolution demanded the establishment of a homeland for the Kashmiri Pandits, comprising the regions of the valley to the east and north of River Jhelum. The resolution also seeks a union territory status for the region exclusively for displaced Kashmiri Pandits. It also wants that all exiled Kashmiri Pandits who wish to return home be settled in the homeland with dignity and honor.
जो दर्द है 30 साल का, वो आज भी हमारे वो भरे नहीं है। 30 साल में जो केंद्र में सरकारें उस टाइम थी, जो वहां पर राज्य सरकारें, हमारे लिए अभी तक कुछ नहीं है। ये 30 साल का दर्द हमने खुद झेला है।
29 years since the resolution was passed, Kashmiri Pandits are still hoping to be rehabilitated one day.
Meanwhile, while speaking to Vidhu Chopra, we asked him if there was a message in the film for Kashmir and its relationship to India.
I think it should heal. See, this is a film that I made over 2 years in Kashmir, and please remember that more than half my crew was Muslim, local population, who knew that I was making a film about Exodus. So this film is really about healing. It's about coming together. It's about really saying, okay, 30 years too long, let's say sorry and move on. You know, it's like how when two friends have a little fallout, but they love each other. And 30 years later they meet and they say, you know, forget it. I'm sorry, the other guy says, I'm sorry, and they move on. So I'm hoping that this film will do that to all of us. And Kashmir will become, inshallah, the Kashmir that it was, where all religions, all people were together and happy together.
Meanwhile, the Assembly elections of 1987 have been marked by infamy. It was believed to have been heavily rigged in favor of the Congress and its partner, the National Conference. 1987 elections seriously undermined the local people's faith in democracy. Farooq Abdullah was elected Chief Minister and formed a coalition government. But the government lacked legitimacy in the eye of the people in the valley, and it only gave a boost to insurgency, which was to peak within the next couple of years.
By early 90s, Kashmir faced a full-scale armed insurgency. The Farooq government had been dismissed and the state was under governor's rule. A deep sense of resentment exploded in the form of support for armed rebellion. With the rise of pro-Pakistani militancy, and the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from the valley, there was no option for the centre to hold elections. Central rule in the state lasted for 6 long years, till 1996. The National Conference came to power in 1996, but did not win a majority in the elections of 2002. Though the NC still won the highest number of seats, 28, the governor chose to call the PDP Congress post-poll alliance to form the government. Together, the PDP with 16 and the Congress with 20 had 36 seats in the House, which was 8 short of the number required to form a government. 7 independent candidates along with 2 MLAs of the CPIM came together to form the Democratic People's Forum and declared to offer unconditional support to non-NC dispensation. And it was on that backing that Mufti Muhammad Saeed became the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir for the first time. The understanding between the allies was that of sharing, and 3 years into their term, Ghulam Nabi Azad of the Congress took over as the Chief Minister of the coalition government. But then the PDP withdrew support over the Amarnath land transfer dispute, and once again the state was brought under governor's rule, which lasted 187 days. The 2014 elections resulted in a hung assembly till PDP and BJP cobbled together a coalition and formed the government, till BJP withdrew support and led to its collapse in June 2018.
We find our continuance in this government to be totally untenable. It's time that matters are taken over by the governor.
It was then that President Kovind approved imposition of governor's rule in Jammu and Kashmir. Governor N.N. Bohra was subsequently replaced by Satyapal Malik, who often quoted controversies.
दिल्ली की तरफ देखता तो लोन की सरकार मुझको बनाना पड़ती और मैं इतिहास में एक बेईमान आदमी के तौर पे जाता, लिहाजा मैंने उस मामले को ही खत्म कर दिया, अब जो गाली देंगे देंगे।
In November 2018, Governor Satyapal Malik dissolved the Legislative Assembly, and on 20th December 2018, central rule was declared in the state. But the events of August 2019 changed the state of Jammu and Kashmir forever.
अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा।
On 5th August 2019, the Narendra Modi-led BJP government dramatically overhauled the political status of Jammu and Kashmir, announcing the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. It also announced bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir as 2 union territories of Ladakh and J&K.
का जवाब दूंगा और मैं दृढ़ मान्यता के साथ आया हूं कि धारा 370 हटाने में 1 सेकंड भी देरी नहीं करनी चाहिए।
The abrogation of Article 370 was a move that by and large found support among the Pandit community in exile.
Now, after the abrogation of Article 370, several Pandits came out in support of the government. Here is what Vidubeno Chopra feels about the government's move.
I'm hoping for peace in Kashmir. I'm hoping for happiness in Kashmir. I'm hoping that the same days will return. Now, whether this is a step or not, for 70 years we've had 370, and what has happened, you've seen. Now it's not even 7 months. I really want to see the end result of this. Because you cannot, see, on paper you can say anything, but what does it actually entail is what we'll have to see.
When we did ask him whether his film would help in bridging the trust gap between people of Kashmir, this was his answer.
First of all, let me tell you that Kashmir is India, it's been India. And I'm hoping and praying and, literally prarthna karta hu, dua karta hu, whatever the word is, that this film heals people. See, I lost my own home. My mother lost her home. But if you see the documentary on my mom, and I hope you can show that little 1 minute to your viewers, when she goes to her home, which is looted, she constantly says, it's okay. And she's hugging all the neighbors. All the neighbors of the majority community are hugging her and kissing her. in that show. And that is what I hope happens through Shikara.
All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of In Depth. We'll, of course, will see you tomorrow. Do stay tuned for To The Point.